Well, in cities like Mariupol, hundreds of thousands of people remain trapped without food, water, heat, or electricity. My next guests have been working to send humanitarian aid to cut-off cities in Ukraine. Christina Katrakis is an ambassador with the Foundation for United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and with her is Daniil Menshikov, head of the Lviv Regional Customs, and they are both in Lviv, Ukraine. Thank you so much, both of you, for joining us today.
Thank you. Hi.
Hi. Now, Christina, you've been working to send humanitarian aid to some of those cut-off cities in Ukraine. You were one of the first agencies to go into certain cities. Tell us about those efforts and about what you've been seeing.
Well, it's devastating. It has been devastating. The situation is really dire. At first, we've been sending, like a week ago and 2 weeks ago, we were among the first ones to send aid to the newly liberated cities and towns around Ukraine, such as Sumy region, Trostyanets, Chernihiv. Together with Daniil, we sent aid just as the roads were somewhat opened and passable. We sent aid to Kyiv region, you know, the genocide area of Irpin, Bucha, Vorzo, and now to Borodyanka, which was horribly hit. But now the new front and new need is in Mariupol, is in Zaporizhia, places like Volnovakha, Donbas, Luhansk, and Mykolaiv. For example, today we were sending a truck to Mykolaiv because the situation there is really horrible. I mean, people were left without water, and I think that Mr. Menshikov can say something also about the law that was passed that helped us deliver aid really fast to these areas and across the border, because the Lviv Customs, with whom we have united forces, made the whole
talk to us about the food shortages, because I know that is something in particular that we've been hearing a lot about, are some of these extreme food shortages. So can you give us a sense of that, the scale of that crisis?
Right. The food shortages are really dire, and we are not getting enough food from the West, because they're saying that they need food to feed the refugees within Europe. And we understand that, but we really need help to feed places like Mykolaiv, like Donetsk, and other places. They have no water. People have been drinking water from the river now in Mykolaiv for several days. So in respect to the whole European attitude and needs, we also have to understand that we have to supply people who are hungry and who are thirsty. The reason why we have united forces with the Lviv Customs and with Daniil Menshikov is because they made something really revolutionary to make all the transition of aid really fast and speedy. I just want to give a word, like 1 minute, to Daniil, and I'll translate it really fast. Розкажи, будь ласка, про закон.
Доброго дня. По-перше, я вдячний всім країнам-партнерам, хто нас підтримав, і Канаді в тому числі і підтримує наразі нас.
Thank you to Canada and all the countries that have been supporting us through this crisis.
Український уряд максимально спростив оформлення гуманітарної допомоги і ввезення її в Україну.
And the Ukrainian government had made the humanitarian aid delivery to Ukraine really easy and fast.
І реально для того, щоб наразі завести гуманітарну допомогу в Україну, треба витратити буквально 10 хвилин на кордоні та заповнити один простий папірець на 5 граф, який можна від руки навіть заповнювати.
And right now, in order to bring the humanitarian aid to Ukraine, you have to spend less than 10 minutes on the border and fill out only 1 page of documentation, which takes about less than 5 minutes.
Okay, so they're doing everything they can to try and make it easier then to get that aid into the areas that are needed most. Now, I do want to ask you quickly about Mariupol, because we know in particular that that city's been trapped without food, water, heat, and electricity. Can you give us any sense, just sort of quickly here, about what the conditions are like in that region?
Well, Mariupol is still largely cut off in this region. So we're trying to get through to them, and we're trying to deliver aid to them, but Russian forces are blocking it from all sides, and people have been left without water, without heat, without food supply, and they're cooking outside of their houses, but there's really using wood and things like that to make bonfires to cook, but there's really no food to cook, so that's another problem. And the amount of mortality and people being killed is so high that they're just burying people in the gardens right next to their houses. So we still cannot get through. Ukrainian forces are fully protecting Mariupol, protecting these grounds, and we are both sending aid to ZSU, which is the military forces of Ukraine, to try to help them and aid and continue to defend those front lines, because the whole destiny of Ukraine right now depends on that. And for example, we were sending the car today to Mykolaiv, which I was telling you that was left without water. Once again, because Russians cut the water supply to the city, and that's what they're doing. They're trying to isolate these cities. They try to cut off water, cut off food, and cut off humanitarian aid. So even if we can send, they block us from entering. So we're trying to go through the military forces and try to deliver it as much as we can, but it cannot be done on the whole scale, like in case of Mariupol. In Mykolaiv, we can still do it. We can still send water. We can still send food as much as we can. But Mykolaiv right now is the only city that is protecting the rest of the territory, protecting us from Russian forces entering into Odessa, for example, or taking the major highway, Odessa-Kyiv. So for us, it's like a stronghold, much like the Mariupol. So if we're talking Mariupol is a port stronghold, then Mykolaiv is not only a port stronghold, it's a stronghold between the rest of the territory and Russian troops entering Odessa and going further into Kyiv.
Wow. Well, Christina, we know that the need is so great, but thank you so much for walking us through some of that and sharing that with us. We really appreciate both of your time.
And also,
today.
we want to mention that we're welcoming Canadians. We're welcoming other countries joining forces with us. We have great people like Sean Pan, that he came to Lviv and he met with Mr. Kozytsky, the governor, and we're now have cooperation with Mr. Kozytsky as well to make the humanitarian aid and flow as easy as possible. So we're welcoming all the initiatives and all the help we can get, because we really, really need to save lives, to provide food, to provide water. And that can be done also by money transfer, where we would buy the food and send all the receipts to the people who donated.
Okay, well, that is good to know as well, because we know, as you were saying there at the beginning, that the need for food is great right now. Well, Christina Katrakis is an ambassador with the Foundation for United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and Daniil Menshikov is the head of the Lviv Regional Customs, and we've reached them both in Lviv, Ukraine.